How do you find collecting all this stuff, like cars, the helmets, obviously in the background, the statues, now the cards, with your wife and that? Does she think you're on La La Land, or is she just accepting of it?
Well, my wife took off, so obviously she didn't like it too much.
Oh, hey guys, welcome to my channel Hammond's Hobbies, and if you're listening to it on any other podcast service, this is the F1 Card Collector podcast. Today I am joined by Ben. If you want to say hello, Ben.
G'day, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
And Ben's. We've got another Australian. So obviously last episode we had Matt on, and Matt's from Australia. Ben as well. They don't know each other, actually, oddly enough. But I said in the groups and Facebook, like, does anyone want to reach out to do a podcast? And Ben messaged me. A couple of other people did as well. And yeah, he's got quite an impressive collection and quite a history of collecting F1 stuff. So we've got Ben on today. And yeah, if you could start off by just telling us a bit about yourself, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, I've been following Formula One since the early 90s. The first few races I was watching was, Senna versus Mansell. That kicked off a bit of a lifelong passion, where I'm obviously a Senna fan. In the late 90s, I started collecting the Senna mini champs models. I also collected the Australian F1 Futura cards in 94, 95.
Did you manage to complete those sets?
Yeah, I've completed the sets. There's a couple of inserts I'm still chasing. Wish I picked them up 2 years ago when they were dirt cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have full sets, and a bit like Matthew, I've been to Melbourne Grand Prix over a few years and got a lot of those cards signed as well.
Oh, so you're another autograph collector as well?
Yeah, I am. And
so hang on a minute. You and Matt both collect F1 cards. You both go to the Australian Grand Prix, and you both chase autographs, but you've never crossed paths.
That's true. I started collecting autographs. My first Grand Prix live was 2000 Melbourne, and for the next 4 or 5 years, I chased autographs quite hard. So I think I was quite hard into the autographs before Matthew came along onto the scene. I started a family, and I started attending a few overseas Grand Prix. So my last Grand Prix I went to was Singapore 2019.
Oh, that's the one I want to go to, Singapore.
Yeah. Singapore's a great. It actually cost me similar sort of money to travel over to Singapore and spend a week there than what it does to travel within Australia to the Melbourne Grand Prix.
Jeez. That's mental. It's the same in the UK, actually, with Silverstone. It's cheaper for me to go to like the Spanish Grand Prix than it is to go to the Silverstone Grand Prix.
Absolutely. And Singapore, you can sit by the pool during the day, drink cocktails, head to the track at 5 o'clock. You're guaranteed to see some great track action. And then when I was there in 2019, the headline music act was Red Hot Chili Peppers. So
oh, nice.
Get to watch a Ferrari victory followed by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's not a bad way to spend a night.
Who actually won that race?
That was actually Seb's last win for Ferrari.
Was it? So you was there.
Yeah.
The last time Seb won for Ferrari, you was there.
I was. Actually, I got something I'll show you. It's a collectible. So I mentioned I collect the model cars. So that's a 118 model of Seb's car that won Singapore that night.
Nice.
So yeah, I collect the 118th models, and I try and get one of every Grand Prix I've attended live. I collect the winning car. as well as I've collected all the Senna, all the Schumacher cars, about 50 of the world champions. So my collection of F1 models is far greater and far more money sunk into it than what I've put into the cards.
Really? So the cards, how many of them do you reckon you've got?
F1 cars, 150 plus.
Jeez. Oh my god. Where do you store them all? Do you have like a big shelf for them or?
Yeah. So this cabinet behind me, I've got half a dozen similar sort of cabinets.
Really? Oh my god. Where do you
It
store them
makes
all?
moving house a real pain.
I bet you have to carefully box them all up individually, didn't you?
Exactly right, and that's why I love getting back into collecting the cards again, because I collected cards in the '90s, completed the sets, put the collections away in the drawer, and very easy. It's very easy
Branch of
uh,
one.
to store. Yeah,
Yeah.
store a collection of cards. They're very easy. With a collection of 150 F1 cars, I also collect Indy cars and Le Mans winners as well, which is ridiculous. But anyway, every time I move house, I've got to spend 2 weeks just packing up model cars, get to the other side, set up cabinets, set up the model collection. Yeah, it's an ordeal. So no more moving for me.
So you've got them all in their place now, and you're like, this is where they're going to stay. Do you have to like regularly dust them down and that? Do they get covered in dust a lot?
All my model cabinets are all glass fronted, and the idea is, try and keep the dust out. And I mean, some of the F1 models, are $1,000 a pop. For
Yeah.
some of the rarer ones, for example, my first time I went to Melbourne, I took a model car. I took a '98 Ferrari, got it signed by Michael. So there's obviously a market value to that, but there's also I'll
Sentimental.
never part with it. That's very important to me. So that's irreplaceable. So yeah, I mean, they're all behind glass. I have a young family, so there's a lock on those cabinets
Yeah.
as well.
I don't trust my kids anywhere near my stuff, but I've only got a tiny collection compared to what you've got by the sounds of things. You'll have to send me some images over. That'd be really cool to see what you've got. And maybe I'll put it in this video somewhere so people can get an idea of what it is that you've got and how it looks.
Yeah, we'll
How
do.
how do you find collecting all this stuff like cars, the helmets, obviously in the background, the statues, now the cards with your wife and that? Does she think you're on La La Land or is she just accepting of it?
Well, my wife took off, so obviously she didn't like it too
Oh,
much.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, you don't need to go into that,
but
but go on.
I mean, uh, everything's amicable. We split everything 50-50, but my one condition was uh, no claims on the model collection. And once we agreed to that, we were fine.
Well, so hang on a minute. Hang on. Sorry. So you went through a divorce, which will all we don't need to go into too much personal detail if you don't want to. But you actually said in the divorce, as long as whatever we agree doesn't affect my F1 collection, and she was like, yeah, she was happy with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that I agreed to do everything fair and 50-50 and not contest anything. And we've got 2 kids, so it was important that we did that 50-50 as well. But yeah, my one condition, my one non-negotiable was I funded my model collection over 25 years out of my own pocket. Never, it was never our shared money that paid for it. It was always my play money that paid for it. So yeah, in the interest of fairness, I wanted to keep it all. And so yeah, that was my one condition. She agreed, and
If you don't mind me asking, did
yeah,
and I don't want to, I don't know, like stitch you up in case she see. Does she know what it's all worth?
yeah, she got a fair idea. Yes, and I mean, I, I had no interest in going after her jewelry or her handbag collection or her
Okay.
150 shoes.
Yeah.
So,
And the thing is as well is that what woman's going to be like, yeah, I want half the models or whatever, and then she's going to be like, what am I going to do with these? She won't, I don't know, like, yeah, I can see, obviously, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, no, that's it. That's crazy that to think that, that obviously you're going through this divorce and like the first thing that pops into your head, not the first thing, I'm sure there was lots of emotions and everything going involved, but you were like, no one's touching my head.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yes, so thankfully she's very fair about it. I think she understood, the passion and the heart and soul that I poured into that collection. And
Okay, so just going back to how was she? Obviously, when you were together, obviously but you were collecting. I know you still are, but you were doing all of these things. Was she quite understanding of it? Matt said that his missus is understanding with it. My wife, she just thinks I'm in La La Land. She thinks I make it all up, and I'm just.
I think I think when I was married and once or twice a month a box would turn up from the postie, and she'd give a bit of a disapproving look, and she'd kind of go tut tut. How much was that one? I go, I got a really good price on that one. I got it for half price or something. Or sometimes I'd just make sure that the boxes kind of just very quietly slipped in and kind of found their way to the back of the wardrobe.
Yeah. So, if you obviously don't want to talk about her too much, but the collecting side of it, have you found the models in particular and the helmets and stuff? I know the helmets are crazy at the moment. They're really hot, aren't they? Like they seem to, as soon as they get released, they sold out, and then they seem to go up loads in value. What about the car models? I've never looked into car models. I always go to like, I don't know, toy shops or like model toy shops, and I have a look and I say, oh look, they've got a McLaren car or a Mercedes, whatever. And I don't know. I never look at the price of them, and I literally know nothing about model cars. I would love to get a couple to put maybe in the background here, but other than that, like, I've put no thought into it. So is it something that has gone up over time, or are they still the same price they were 10 years ago?
Yeah, so uh, I guess there's two key markets with F1 models. There's what are the modern season cars. So for example, people want to get a hold of, I want Lando's McLaren, I want Danny Rick's McLaren, I want an Aston Martin model, I want a model of the car that I went and saw win live. So there's a market for that, and then there's the market for the historical models. So you can get models of Jackie Stewart's cars, you can get models of James Hunt's cars, Lauder's, all the way from the 50s through to modern day. So it's two very different models. Two different markets, and some of those historical ones are made in very small production numbers, and it's very common that those models double, triple, quadruple in price. As soon as they sell out, they instantly go up in value.
Because you can't get them anywhere else, I suppose. Do they normally have a certain allocation of how many they make?
Yeah, the historical models tend to be more limited numbers. They tend to be higher end. Sometimes they've got removable like engine detail, and you can see the suspension, and some of them the suspension actually even works on a model car. So very, very detailed. If they come out with tobacco livery on them, sometimes they're more highly sought after because they're harder to get, or they're less common to get. For example, some of Senna's models, typically they double or triple in value. there's a huge market for Senna models. A lot of the Ferrari models from the 70s and 80s, typically they're going to double or triple in value if you can get them when they first come out. So, whereas the current season F1 models, they tend to do bigger numbers. They tend to be around at shops and at the track, and they tend to be available for a longer time. But they do special editions that, for example, I've pre-ordered a Monaco Lando 2021 McLaren, so that'll come in the Golf color scheme. And in the model collectors world, that's a really highly sought after model. The car looks brilliant. Lando got a podium in that, and that hasn't even been released yet, and it's actually very hard to get. Sold out in most places. Pre-orders no longer available. So that one, I'm still waiting for it to arrive. I pre-ordered it. I knew it would be a hot one to get.
And where's the main sources of places you go to be, when that does eventually come out? Where is, what's the place? I don't even know where you would search, to.
Yeah, there's a couple of big online stores. There's one or two very popular ones in the UK. There's one or two very good ones in the continental Europe. There's one or two very big ones in Australia. So I use a variety of sources, and sometimes if I miss out at one, I'll try the next. Sometimes the German seller will have a 20% off sale, so I'll hold off and buy 3 or 4 models at once, get a 20% discount, and by buying, I guess, in bulk, I guess it makes the postage cost a little bit. Splits the postage cost up a bit. So I use a variety of different sources. They're all the companies I deal with internationally. There's even a good supplier in Canada that I have dealt with on and off for 20 years. So the main thing is you just have to know what's coming out, when it's roughly due to come out. A bit like the Chrome cards. You really need to keep your ear to the ground and know when stuff's due to come out, and know what you want to buy and be ready to pounce. Either pre-order it or be ready to pounce. Because like Chrome 2020, if you're buying a box now, you're paying quadruple the original price.
Yeah. And does that happen in the world of helmets and cars? Like I say, I don't know anything. I haven't even got an idea of how much any of these things cost. But do once they sell out, obviously then it goes on the secondary market, which typically people are only going to sell for more than what they paid for it, plus eBay fees, plus postage and all of that. So I can see it going up a bit. But I mean, what are you talking? Are you talking, do they go up massively, or do they sort of plateau a bit, or?
Yeah, well, the helmets. So, for example, this Prost helmet, or this Fittipaldi helmet, or this Hunt helmet, or this Lauda helmet, you're looking at that. They're easy worth double or triple the original price, easily. These Senna ones, same thing. They'll be triple the original retail price. So, particularly with the historical, the icons of the sport, they're a pretty safe investment. But what we're seeing in the helmets at the moment is that there's a huge demand for some of the new superstars of Formula One. So your Landos and your George Russells, these guys have a big following. There's huge demand for their helmets. Some of the they're producing 3 or 4 different versions of Lando's helmet and of George's helmet every season. And some of the more limited ones, some of them are only a couple hundred made, and as soon as they sell out, yes, they are selling for triple price straight away.
Oh, bloody hell!
And it's a bit like the sports card market. That I mean, obviously Lando and George are both really marketable. They've got a huge following, particularly in the UK. We know they're up and comers. We know they're going to be, we know they're race winners at some point. And like the cards, people want to collect these guys from the beginning of their career, and they want to be able to collect every helmet. So some people are collecting one helmet a season for George. Some are collecting every single Lando helmet. And yes, you can easily spend a couple grand a year just on trying to collect Lando and George helmets if that's your passion.
Bloody hell. I would love to get. I was thinking I'd love to just have, like, I saw once someone had an acrylic box that was mounted to a wall, so it was slightly at an angle, so the helmet's almost like looking down. And I thought I'd love to have that, him looking down over like my card collection, So I'm just thinking like looks wise, but yeah, I would love to start collecting Lewis ones. And I looked on one website and it was like I was dragging down, and it was like Alonso's helmet, £400. Lando Norris, £400. And then as soon as I got to Lewis's one, it was like 1,700. I was like, bloody hell! So I've not got around to purchasing one yet. But yeah, I suppose at some point I'd like to collect a couple of Lewis Hamilton helmets. Oh, nice.
So this is the Lewis 2008, his first World Championship.
Bring it a bit closer to you. Bring it closer to your body.
How's that?
That's it. Yeah, that's the money shot. Nice.
So yeah, got that one signed. Signed by Martin Whitmarsh on the front. Team principal.
Yeah.
And obviously signed by Lewis on top. And that's his first championship helmet. And again, to me, that's something that I'll keep and treasure. And nice to meet Lewis. And whatever he does in the sport, I'll always have that as a bit of a memory of watching his rise through Formula One, watching a lot of amazing victories and amazing legacy he'll obviously leave the sport. And I've always got a bit of a memento to remind me of some of the amazing things he's done.
You being sort of a Ferrari fan, are you a Ferrari fan? Is that fair to say? More than the others?
I'm a Schumacher and a Senna fan. Is my two top guys.
Yeah. I heard you mention Ferrari and Schumacher. I thought he must be a Ferrari. So is Schumacher your greatest of all time? Is he your GOAT?
He is. Yeah, he is. Schumacher, absolutely brilliant in the car. He could make the difference in a race. He could turn he could win a race just by sheer skill, and what he could do in the wet was unbelievable.
Yeah, king of the wet.
And I guess the interesting thing about Schumacher is, as brilliant as he was, he had faults, he had flaws, he made mistakes. He was crucified in the press for some of those mistakes, sometimes rightfully so. But yeah, he's a very complex, interesting character. Worked very hard behind the scenes, had a very strong work ethic. Very good at building up a team. Had lots of good strengths. He also had his weaknesses. Yeah, he's a very complex character.
Being British, a German dominating character was never going to go down too well in our country. But I never looked at it like that because obviously, I'm not from the era of World War One and Two. But thing with Michael Schumacher for me is that when Lewis came on the scene, straight away all the press was like, you're one of the youngest race winners, you're competing for a world title already at this age. Do you think you can compete with Michael Schumacher? And he was then, and I remember watching him then, and I said to my friend, I was like, this is the guy. And me and my friend still talk about this to this day. I said, do you remember I told you, like, it was like 10 years ago or whatever it was. And I said, I told you, this is the guy. And I said, if anyone's going to challenge Michael Schumacher, it's this guy. And here we are, like, obviously he's on his 7th world title. And the over the years, I always thought, Lewis is going to go down that path of, when sort of like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of it without swearing, but like the shit hits the fan. He's going to have that moment where he crosses a line or something like that. And I feel like Michael Schumacher had that. I feel like there was times when the shit hit the fan, he made the best decision, the right call for himself. But everyone else watching were like, well, that's that's out of order. You shouldn't have done that. You're a cheater, or you're this, you're that. And he was like, oh well, I'm a 5-time world champion. I'm a 6-time world champion. I'm a 7-time. So he done what was right for him. And yeah, I used to watch Formula One, and I used to hate Michael Schumacher because I used to be a McLaren guy. I supported David Coulthard, Mika Hakkinen, and at the time it was always just Ferrari and McLaren at the front. It was always one of them two teams. Every week in, week out, it was always one of them that would win it, and then there was the rest of the pack. So I always rooted for a McLaren win. Then obviously Lewis, being a British guy, being someone that's come from a council estate like myself, I was like, I can relate to this guy. With McLaren, the team I support, I was like, I'm all about Lewis Hamilton. And just actually this season really emphasised it to me. Lewis could have drove Max off, couldn't he? In that final gripping, he could have done, and everyone would say, "Oh, Lewis is a cheat. Look, Lewis is showing his true colours," but he didn't. He was very fair, even though he threw a tantrum after or whatever how everyone wants to criticise him. And I think to me that's the difference between Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton will win, but he won't cross a certain line. Michael Schumacher would. And there's no right or wrong. There's no one's better than the other, because at the end of the day, Schumacher got it done. You know what I mean? He crossed the line first many times. So yeah, I love comparing the two, because to me they are the two best drivers of all time. I know a lot of people say like Ayrton Senna and stuff like that, and obviously it was a shame that he passed away early on in his career, like earlier on in his career. But I still think that them two are on another level.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We were so lucky last season watching Lewis and Max at their peak go at it, have contacts multiple times, go to the finale. I think personally, Lewis handled a really shit situation. I think he handled it amazingly well. I got a lot of respect for the way Lewis handled that disappointment. I'm not sure I could have been the bigger man. He shook Max's hand and he did the interviews, and then he walked off into the sunset and took some time to himself. That's fine, I get that, and full respect to him, and I'm looking to see what he brings for the coming season. But every Grand Champion.
I ask you, being a Ferrari and a Schumacher fan, if Michael Schumacher was in that Mercedes and Max was overtaken, what would Michael have done? See, that's where I get. People always say to me, "No, Michael Schumacher's the greatest," and I always say, "Yeah, but Lewis has." And Murray Walker said it. He said Lewis wins fair and square. You could argue there are different eras, different teams. There was different things going on, and all of that. And I agree with all of that. But from what I've seen, still, even when you got to think, not only did he lose a race, which is frustrating enough, and he's obviously full of adrenaline, so that's like just a normal day. I mean, we saw Max when he had a collision with Esteban Ocon, I think, and they started pushing each other in the weigh room. But so Lewis is full of adrenaline. He lost it on the last lap, so he's literally lost it and then got straight out of the car. So that's one thing, but then he's also won the championship for that year, so that's another huge thing. And on top of that, he's just lost, for all he knew, his last opportunity to become the greatest of all time. He lost all of that in one lap. And like you say, for him to shake that person's hand straight away and say, well done, congratulations, and then just walk off. And that scene where his dad was whispering in his ear, my heart was broken. I was like, what if I was talking to my son that had just, I'd probably be the opposite. I'd probably be going, that's unfair, you need to change the rules. I'd be like screaming from the rooftops. But him and his dad were like, they just went off in a corner. He whispered in his ear, look, keep your head, high and all that. And he did. And I have my opinion on who I think's the greatest. Obviously, you're saying Schumacher. So we'll disagree there. We'll disagree. So, in terms of the cards, you used to collect. Someone sort of commented on my last video because I was talking to Matt, who obviously has a huge, like a very prestigious that Futura set. Um, what sets did you get? Did you manage to get the 1995 and 1996 collections, and you got them signed as well? Did you get the Lewis card signed?
Uh, yeah, so in Australia there was a few. We had a Futura release of the '94 and the '95 cards. So I completed both those sets in the '90s at the time. So I was 12, I think, when I first started collecting those cards. They had some chase cards. They were numbered. I managed to get quite a good number of the chase cards. And for me, I live in Brisbane, Australia, and just down the road from me, they had every year they had the Gold Coast IndyCar race. So I went along to that. I saw Mansell win on debut. So I watched Mansell race in Formula One, and then I went and watched him race in IndyCar. And I loved IndyCar. I loved watching IndyCar, especially knowing a lot of the IndyCar guys in the '90s had come from Formula One. So then I had a full set of Formula One cards from the '90s. So I was able to go down the Indy and meet guys like Stefan Johansson and get his autograph, or JJ Leto. So yeah, I managed to get quite a number of these signed through the IndyCar race. Someone like Stefan Johansson, he could walk around an IndyCar paddock and he'd be anonymous. Virtually no one, IndyCar fans would barely know who he was at that time. But I knew that he was a Ferrari and a McLaren driver. So to me, to get his autograph and get it on a card of his, at the time I was the only one who was chasing these autographs at the IndyCar race. And two, these F1 guys were actually, some of them were actually quite surprised that they were getting recognised.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And
what?
Yeah,
You've always kept them, like, so you still have them to this day?
Yeah, exactly right. Correct. Yeah, yep.
Oh, that's crazy.
Look, yeah, and even at one stage, Mika Salo, he went and did a bit of IndyCar as well, and you know, so here you go, a guy who's raced for Ferrari. He had to give up a victory for Ferrari. Sorry, he had to give up his victory for Ferrari to try and help Irvine's championship campaign. I remember vividly watching that on TV, and then I get to meet Mika Salo and get him to sign a card. And another absolutely fantastic one was Alex Zanati. So Alex didn't have a very he didn't have his F1 career in the '90s. Wasn't well known, and he wasn't well known for his F1. But he went to IndyCar in America and he blitzed them in the Ganassi IndyCar. And everyone who was an IndyCar fan knew who Alex Zanati was. He's the guy who does the donuts. And I knew that he'd had a previous stint in Formula One, and I was really excited when he was going back to Williams, and I wanted to see him do well. I'd met him. He's a lovely guy. He's got a really nice autograph. And yeah, it's such a shame that his stint at Williams didn't work out. But again, I got, he's yet another F1 guy I got to meet through the IndyCar paddock. And by that stage, I was ready to go to my first Formula One race down in Melbourne, 2000. And luckily, for a Schumacher fan, for my first race to watch Michael win live was was beyond a dream. It was the most amazing weekend you could imagine.
How old was
I met Michael? How old was I? I was 18.
Nice.
18. Straight out of high school, booked myself a flight down to Melbourne, go to the Grand Prix. Met Michael, watched him win a race, got an autograph. It was heaven. I'm like, all right, whatever it takes. I'm going to come back every year, and I'll come back every year, and then I think I'm up to about 20 Grand Prix now.
I've only ever been to one, and that was Silverstone. But I would love to do some of the European ones. I'd love to, and Singapore. Singapore's one of my. I actually would prefer to go to Singapore than I would say Monaco or anything, because I actually really like the races. I like the look of them, and especially I've got to say, sorry, I'm changing topic here. Have you seen the new car releases for
Yes.
this year? Did you see the McLaren glow in the dark?
I didn't see glow in the dark. I do love the colours of the new McLaren.
Oh, it glows in the dark, and I was like, oh my god, that looks the bomb. I'm thinking, why has no F1 cars done this before?
They have been doing that at Le Mans for 10 or 15 years. So I wondered why no one in Formula One had done it either.
Yeah, no, it looks that. I have to say, what do you think of the? Because so far we've seen Haas, McLaren, Aston Martin, and who's the other one? Red Bull. Obviously, Red Bull's one. I think they've tried to release it early just so they could. Originally, they were going to be the first ones, and I think they've done that for publicity. But they've said, yeah, the car that we showed was just a concept car, like so it wasn't actually the car. But I have to say, the Aston Martin looks the bomb.
I absolutely love that they're using the British Racing Green with the fluoro green trim on it, uh, which they've been running on. They've been running that colour scheme on their GT cars at Le Mans for maybe a decade, and to now put it on their Formula One cars looks great, looks schmick. You look at it and you think that colour scheme is Aston Martin.
Well, not just that. I mean, like, yeah, I agree with you. The colours look awesome, and those GT cars look awesome as well. I remember they were my first toys. I had GT cars as like the metal cast ones where you can open the door and you can I used to love those. But anyway, the Aston. I love the shape. The new car this year, like you were just showing that model of the cars. I felt like the Formula One cars were getting too almost like Lego-y. Like they just look, especially like say like the nose. For years, the nose has been quite nice and smooth, and then obviously the wing comes off, and it's obviously looks very aerodynamic. They all started having kinks in it and bumps, and they almost looked rectangle with like a little bit added on the bottom. And even the Mercedes one goes down into a point, and then they have a circle at the end of it. Like all the noses to me just looked wrong, and this is my opinion. And like the back end of the cars and the under tray and everything with all the slits and I just thought, to me, F1 cars back in the days, I would say like the McLaren era. Obviously, I was a McLaren fan, but the McLaren Vodafone, model with the big tyres and that to me, that was like, I'd love to drive that on public roads, or like, obviously you wouldn't because it's too bumpy, but I'd love to be seen in that car. Then over the years, pretty much since the hybrid era, I would say all the cars, I'm like, nah, I've got no interest in ever, I don't know, I just don't like the look of them. Now this year, they look sexy as hell. Like they're curvy, they're fat at the front, and then they curve in, and then the big rear bit, and like the under tray's been tidied up. And I know they're going to change all that, and they're going to put all bits on it and stuff like that. But as it stands now, as of these car releases, I would say this is the best looking F1 has been since that era, maybe from like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's funny that the 2022 cars were designed the way they are because they want to promote closer racing, and they want less turbulence, less wake, and in doing that, so trying to achieve better racing, they've actually just accidentally ended up with cars that actually look streamlined, and they look aggressive, and they look nice, because a lot of the clutter, these winglets and funny little T-tray wings and all these appendages that have been added on over the years to create a bit more downforce. Taken those all away, so the cars look nice aesthetically, but that wasn't really the intention. The intention was, let's create cars that race better.
Yeah,
so,
they can get closer.
So let's
to
hope.
each other, yeah, let's hope it works.
Let's hope it works.
I
but by accident, they've created good looking cars as well.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. You want it to. I don't know. Like Formula One to me was always the pinnacle of technology, but the cars looked amazing. Like I mean, if you get a little toy, if you're a kid and you get a little toy of an F1 car, they look great. But I just wondered, obviously, being a model collector, I'm saying this, and obviously, I might be dissing a huge section of your model collection, and you might be like, actually, I quite like it. I just thought maybe you'd have a different opinion on them, but yeah, to me, and actually, I put a post on the F1 group saying how good does the new cars look this year. And I was expecting a load of people to comment saying, yeah, they look really good and agree with me. But I didn't. I don't think anyone agreed with me. It was all comments saying, no, I prefer last year's car and I think everyone's going to miss last year's car. And I was like, what? I was like, am I in La La Land? Like, the, the cars at the moment, like, or, from last year, they're just. There's no, someone said, like, oh, yeah, the Mercedes looks really nice. Even with, like, when they made it black and then they put the little red Mercedes, thing in it for Nicky Lauda when he passed away,
Yep.
that livery looked the bomb. But still, on that car, it looked ugly as hell. Just the way the car is, the shape of it, and the way the corner, the way it bumps, and I just didn't like it. I really didn't. That's my opinion. I don't know. Comment down below if you disagree with me.
I would love to see F1 cars that were a little bit lighter, not as long, a bit more compact. The cars are, they may be 30% longer than what the cars were in the 90s. To incorporate the hybrid technology, the cars are 150, 200 kilos heavier than what they were. The cars are longer to incorporate the battery and the hybrid systems, and I'd like to see them slim the cars down a bit, reduce a bit of weight. Yes, the cars will be quicker and a bit more nimble. I'd like to see that. But if a car is 30% shorter, that means that when you're running around a street circuit, it means that there's I guess more track room for passing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? The bigger they've got, and obviously Mercedes dominated, obviously from the get go. And I remember actually, I think it was Sir Jackie Stewart. He said, "I think Mercedes are going to dominate for the next 7 to 8 years," and he said that like 8 years ago. So what a call! Like what a call to call that out. And yeah, they've won out. Go on.
Actually, Glenn, just on that, so 2015 Australian Grand Prix, I asked Jackie Stewart, I was a big fan of Stewart Grand Prix, actually, and I asked Jackie and said, hey, Jackie, if you were running a team today, what I know that you used to promote junior drivers, up-and-coming drivers, what young driver would you put in your car today if you were running a team? And his answer was Max Verstappen. And at the time, Max was 17 and he was about to make his debut, his very first race in 2015 for Toro Rosso. And you're right, he picked the talent, and he knew back then that Max was an unbelievable talent.
I do think, yeah, going from the cars to the drivers now, I do think Max is, and I know it seems like a common sense thing because he's just won the World Championship, but when you see these, greatest of all times, what I've noticed is that, like Nico Rosberg, really great driver. He was good all through his junior career. He was always pegged with Lewis Hamilton, and he just didn't get that chance. And when he finally did, obviously Lewis beat him, and then he beat Lewis. But he came out, and it was something I never thought about. He came out and said, I'm going to retire. And when they were saying, why are you going to retire? And he said, what it took out of me personally and my family to win this year, I don't want to do again. And then that got me thinking, what does he mean by that? And I thought, yeah, if I was to, say, enter a sport, and I said to my wife and kids, look, you're not going to see me for the next 8 years, really, because I'm going to try and become the world's best at this. Yeah, that would take a lot out of you. It would take a lot out of your family. It would take a lot out of your kids. You'd miss them growing up, and obviously you have to have that aggression, and you have to have that determination, not just for one weekend, not for one session, not for one race. It's for like years and years. And what I've seen is Michael Schumacher very consistently was that. And then obviously Lewis Hamilton is very consistent and is that. Now, if Max Verstappen, if he just keeps being consistent, the level that he's at now, he will always be drawn, or the teams that are performing the best will always want to sign him, which means he's always going to be the cream always rises to the top. So he'll always be in a championship winning team, give any sort of like a year or two apart. So he could challenge for that greatest of all time. And I see that in him. If you look at him, he's like, even when he wins, he's like, yeah, because in his mind, he's not thinking, this is my personal take, he's not thinking, oh yeah, I've just won the Singapore Grand Prix, great. He's thinking, right, I've just won one out of a 22 race. I need to win another 19 now, or whatever. And then from that, I need to win another 150 to beat Lewis's records. So I think he's just literally just the tally chart at the minute. And I see that in him, like, already. And I saw that in Lewis when he was young. I saw it in Michael Schumacher when he was racing. I think that Max is going to achieve those sort of levels.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have seen world champions in the past. They're very fast. We've seen drivers who've come on board, one world championship, and then suddenly their motivation maybe slips, and you got and then they kind of slip back. So Kimmy's probably the classic example where won a world championship for Ferrari. Maybe could have actually won a couple more if McLaren was a bit reliable, and then he was nowhere for a couple of years for Ferrari, and basically got pushed out of the team. So we get some world champions who just after 1 year they just can't maintain that level and that focus and that dedication, and then you got other guys who can just do it year after year after year, and that's what makes your Maxes and your Lewises and your Schumachers just so special.
I do think that Max, if he is a dominant character, and he's in a good team. I mean, he said when he won that race, oh, can I sign with you guys for another 12 years or something like that, like to Red Bull. But I guarantee you, if he had 2 bad years, he's going to be signing for Ferrari or Mercedes or something like that. But I remember when, is he even like, it's not so much even like when you're chasing for a win. And this isn't me just being a huge Lewis Hamilton fan and just trying to blow his own trumpet, but I don't know if you remember, McLaren, they were like very dominant when Lewis won in 2008, I believe. And then for a few years when it was him and Jenson Button, they were at the back of the grid. Now we saw Jenson Button would finish a race still at the back of the grid. Lewis would always finish 8th, 5th, 7th. So that means he overtook 12 cars in that race. And it weren't just a one-off. He done it race in, race out. And I remember the commentators were going, nothing's really happening at the front, but my God, Lewis is working his way through the field. And I just think, God, even when he's at the back of the grid, he knows he's got no chance of winning. He's got probably no chance of being on the podium, but he's still going for it like 100%. So that's just a level of consistency that you don't see in many drivers. And like you said, Jenson Button, he's won a world championship. He's a world championship, isn't he? So, but I just didn't see him have that level of consistency. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. But going back to cards, I think that's why I don't know about you. Obviously, I collect cards, but I also sell cards on my eBay store, Hammond's Hobbies, and obviously, I'm always looking to complete full sets so that I can just sell it as a complete full set. And the cards that I always struggle to find are Max Verstappen cards. Now, when I first got involved in collectible cards, I was watching a video about how a lot of people use cards to essentially just sport betting. They're just betting, oh, I think this person's going to win this year, so I'm going to hoard loads of his card. I think he's going to be good for many years, so I'm going to hoard his card. And I saw someone in the group who had about, I swear he had about 50 Max Verstappen Sapphire cards, his base card. And I just want one. Like, I was like, I just want one. And I messaged him. I said, please, can I just have one off you? And he was like, no, I'm going to keep him for 10 years and all that. And I thought, oh my God. So yeah, Max's card is, I would say it's harder to get than the Lewis cards.
Uh, yes. Um, we know the Dutch fans and the Max fans are crazy passionate. We know that they can sell out races. We know that they started a race in the Netherlands just because of Max, just because they knew they could sell out the event 5 times over because of the support for Max. So Max is a phenomenon, not on the track, not just on the track, but the industry and the brand and the fans he brings into the sport by the thousands is amazing. And Michael had that similar impact in the 90s. Germany went F1 crazy, absolutely F1 crazy, and their races were absolute sellouts, and their fans would they would spend thousands on merchandise and thousands on models, and Schumacher had his own brand and his own licensing, and he was I think he was earning tens of millions just from his cap sales a year. So it's interesting to see history, go full circle, and now we're seeing something similar with Max. But yes, his fans are fanatic. And to think Max has another easily 15 years in the sport. Some of the passionate Max fans may not have. Some of the most passionate Max fans 10 years from now may not have even seen a race yet. But there's tens of thousands of Max fans, over the net. It'll just grow and grow and grow over the years to come. And of course, all his collectibles, especially from the early days of his career, will just continue to appreciate. Even if he doesn't win, he will still have fanatical fans who want his merchandise.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, I'm just for me, obviously being a huge Lewis fan, I want to try and collect the Lewis stuff while he's still about. I know that he's probably, and when they were talking about him retiring this year, I was like, no, he won't retire this year. I'm hoping he's in it for another 1, maybe 2 years. So then that means I've only got 2 years worth of F1 cards for him to collect, and then, I mean, that's enough, really. That's 4 or 5 years worth in it. So yeah, I think that's enough. But yeah, for me, that's what I'm focusing on at the minute. But yeah, if I had a forward thinking mind as an investor, which I've always stipulated that I'm a collector first, a seller second, I should be investing in probably the future of F1 as opposed to really he's the current, but he's more the past than he is the future, I suppose, because he's. So that's my take on it. In terms of the cards, what sets is it? So obviously, like, you collected all the Futura set, they disappeared, they went away. So you've still got your helmets and your models that you've been chasing, but then Tops comes out. What attracted you to Tops straight away, and what sets do you prefer over the other?
Yeah, so I was stoked to hear that Tops were taking over the F1 license. I was very keen to get a hold of a box. So I managed to buy a box. I bought 3 or 4 boxes when they first came out at the original price. Wish I'd bought 40, but hey, that's hindsight, right? So as a Schumacher fan, I ripped my first box, and the very first box I ripped of Chrome 2020, I pull out one of these
Nice.
bad boys, and yeah, Schumacher autograph. It's a pre-rookie card, so it's his F2 card.
Is it a
That's
true
the gold.
gold?
So
Is it a 1 out of 50, or is that the 70th?
yep. So this is a numbered 1 out of 50. Yep.
Nice.
So uh, I mean, I was already addicted. I was already committed to buying the full set. But getting a Schumacher autograph straight off the bat was it made my month. And I thought, oh, things can't get better than this. A month or two later, Danny Rick wins in Monza, and I think, wow, my year just got better again. So, so yes, I've completed the set of Chrome. I think I'm still chasing down a couple of track tagged ones. So some of the subsets, still chasing some of those down. But I've got the base set. I've invested in. I have. So I've got my collection, like you said. I'm a collector first and foremost. I have invested in some of the purples and the golds for your Lewis's, for your Max's, for your Leclerc's, for your Micks, for your Landos. So I've got those stashed away for a rainy day, and I've now. One of the very interesting things about the Chrome set was the most popular cards in that set are the Portrait 1 to 20 cards, right?
Yeah.
So those have the most value for the Lewis or for the Max card or for the Lando card.
And the variations as well.
And the variations, yeah, absolutely. So when the Lights Out set came out, where there's 20 portrait cards in that Lights Out set, so it's a 40 card set. Half of them are portrait cards. I knew that would be popular just because I had seen in Chrome that those portrait cards were well sought after by the collectors. So I think of Lights Out as it's basically it's another portrait set, but the cards actually look pretty damn cool, right?
Yeah. They're cool looking cards. They are. I don't know if you saw. So someone reached out to me, Mark, yesterday, and said, "Oh, I'm looking to open up 6 boxes of Lights Out. Who wants to buy some?" But he done them a bit cheaper than what they sell for, like on eBay and stuff. Because he said one of the things is I want to open it up on my Instagram page. And I said, "Yeah, I'll buy all 6 of them off you." Now I said to him, as long as you don't pull a Nikita Mazepin or Fernando Alonso, because I've opened up 14 or 15 boxes of Lights Out myself, and I pulled 3 Alonsos, all the World Championship like parallels. I pulled 3 Mazepins, and then I think I got a Vettel, and I got a couple of powertrain like the cars. Anyway, he opened these 6 boxes up last night on his Instagram, and he pulled me another 2 Alonsos. It was either 1 or 2 Mazepins. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? But one of them actually was a Mick Schumacher out of 75. So that's like, the Mick Schumacher is the best pull I've had out of 20 boxes of F1 Lights Out, which you said you've got a box that you'd like to rip open on this video.
I do. I have a fresh box of Lights Out.
Nice.
It's amazing they managed to fit 25 cards into a tiny little box.
Tiny little box, yeah. I suppose they did that to save on shipping and stuff.
Yeah, top's definitely. There's plenty of product on the way. So what do we got? So I've got a Valtteri. What do we got there? We got an Alpine, which is actually a gorgeous livery as well.
Alpine, the parallel. If you move the cards a bit,
that is a parallel actually. Yeah, you're right. So
if you move it closer to your body,
yeah.
No, your body. That's it.
Yeah. So that's my parallel for the pack. So that's an Alpine parallel. That's a numbered out of 99.
You can tell. I could tell that it was a parallel straight away because it has the flag in the background.
It
Whereas the
does.
rest are all black like
So,
that one.
so yeah, maybe I'll swap you for a Mazepin.
Hey, Hammy
That's my
base.
card. Brilliant. So, I mean, as you know, um, when you rip a box and you hit a parallel, there's a chance that if it's chrome, it might be an F2 parallel. You might get an autograph, but maybe it's a Dragovic autograph. Maybe it's a Mazepin, parallel. So I guess that's all. That's all. That makes when you get those big hits, it makes it all the more sweeter.
Yeah.
Got another Lewis.
Another Lewis. World Championship
Yeah,
card.
world champion. Got another Valtteri.
Bottas. Another Hammond.
Another Hamilton. So yeah, we go Mazepin.
Hey. Oh, and another Lewis base, mate. Pulling out all the
There
money
you go.
cards here.
So apparently I got a couple of Lewis duplicates to swap.
Yeah, mate. The Lewis base one goes for more money than all the others. The only one that
Yeah.
goes for the same sort of money is obviously Max. Ferrari. What one's that? Lance Stroll.
That is.
AlphaTauri.
Oh, got another Alpha. Checo
Perez.
and a George.
Hey.
So so for me completing the set, this is actually a really good rip. So in terms of the parallel, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to retire off that one. But having said that, I do think the Alpine is a beautiful car, and so the Alpine's designed. Sean Ball, who I follow on Facebook, he has contributed to the Alpine livery. So I've followed Sean since before he did any F1 collaborations, and he's now tied up with Penske in some of their liveries. He's done some of the Golf Porsche modern day liveries for like Nürburgring 24 Hours, and he's now also tied up with Alpine in their livery. So
Well, so you really like live and breathe F1.
yeah. Well, yes, it's an addiction, of course. Yes, there's a Mick.
Nice. Rookie
Beautiful.
race.
So I'd be very happy with a Mick. That's a Leclerc.
Hey, there's the other big boy. Max
There's
with
a Max. Very happy. I needed one of those for my set, so that is brilliant. There's a Latifi and a
Mercedes.
a Mercedes as well. I've got one more packet to pull.
Nice. So what? Yeah, this F1 light set, is this your first box you've opened, or have you opened ones before?
This is my second rip.
What did you get in the? What was your parallel in the other one?
We've got Alonso 1/99.
Okay, what, the base portrait card or the world champion one?
The base.
Ocon. Gasly.
Obviously.
Mazepin.
World Championship Kimmy. And to finish it off,
Alonso.
got an Alonso.
Yeah.
So
I've never been a fan of Alonso. Great racing driver, but I've never liked. Again, he's like sort of like the Michael Schumachers of the world, where he will do anything to try and get ahead. But he obviously didn't have the backing of a huge team like Ferrari behind him from the get go. So, for a majority of his career, so he's gone from team to team, and he's just. He's lucked out. He should have just stayed where he was and really tried to help develop Ferrari. But anyway, that's my opinion. I've never been a huge fan of Alonso personally. Yeah.
I mean, we could write the book. We could all write a book about what could have been for Fernando and some of the mistakes, or
Oh
maybe some
yeah,
of the things he might regret in his career.
he's another one. I mean,
But
he's still consistent, isn't he? Even what is he? I can't remember how old he is now. He's 40 something, can he?
he's 40, yeah. He's 40. He had a bit of a scrappy start to his comeback, but he just had jaw surgery in the preseason. So it took him a couple of races to get back up to speed, but yeah, he's a competitive beast, and I I think we'll see him. I think we will see him back on the podium again in 2022.
You reckon?
I think we will.
Well,
Yeah.
the Renault or Alpine now. Yeah, that was their goal, wasn't it? To work their way up, and they sort of worked their way up, and then they sort of gone backwards a little bit. So hopefully they can get back to where they was. That would be really good. So well done. Thanks for opening that box with us. That's nice of you to do that.
No worries.
I don't know. I think I've finished with F1 Lights Out. I mean, I've got sitting next to me. I've got probably 100 F1 Lights Out cards. I've got enough to complete 8 sets over, and then I opened 6 boxes through that Instagram thing. So I've got those coming to me. So I've probably got enough for 10 sets. I think I'm completely done with F1 Lights Out now. But saying that brings us on to the flagship set. So last time I was on, obviously did a video like this, was with Matt, and we were just sort of guessing or like estimating what we think would happen with F1 flagship set. But now we know it's coming out on the 16th, which I believe is this Wednesday. Today's the 13th as of recording this video. So yeah, Wednesday will be the release date. So obviously it's going to be on the Topps website, which I'm guessing it's going to be. I said on a Facebook, and this really kicked off like loads of arguing in the Facebook group. Actually, I said I think it's going to be £40 to £80. It's going to be around there for a box of it on the Topps website. And this guy just got really angry, and he was like, "You don't know nothing about cards. They're £450 pre-order on this and this website." And I said to him, "Lights Out was 35 quid like 2 weeks ago. What's your point?" And but anyway, it sells out very quickly. So obviously, all of us that are into collecting the F1 cards of it, we're all going to be on the Topps website, all trying to compete off each other to buy a couple of boxes. But yeah, the pre-orders are like $400-500 already, which is I find crazy, especially as like we were talking before we started recording. The flagship set is essentially like how do you word it? Like a pre-release to Chrome. It's going to be the same images that are going to appear in Chrome, but Chrome's going to feature more inserts, and it's going to have the autographs, whereas this won't have any autographs. So already it's not as valuable, but then the cards are going to be like the thinner ones, a bit like Topps now. So in America they refer to it as paper stock. They say, "Oh, that's the paper stock version." Chrome's going to be the thicker, more shinier, more better material, if you like. So we saw Chrome last year on the Topps website sell for in the UK. Sorry, Ben, if I know Australian dollars, you pretty much just double it, didn't you? So for pounds, it was £135 on the Topps website when it came out, 140-ish, and then straight away, boom, it was like £400-500 on eBay. And now it seems like with this flagship, they've just gone straight in at that 400 mark, which I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, last year Chrome was so popular. It was Chrome and Topps now were your only choices for F1 cards last year. This year, there's a lot more options and there's a lot more choice. So for me personally, I am focused on the upcoming Chrome release, and I'll skip flagship altogether and focus on Chrome.
Oh, really? I don't know how I feel about that. Skipping a set.
So yeah, yes, Chrome's more expensive. The card's a bit more premium. More the idea of chasing the autograph cards.
I was going to say, because someone like yourself, the autographs, I assume, is like the the big draw. That's like what you really want. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, if you want a Lewis, a Max, a Lando autograph card, you need Chrome. So yeah, I guess there's lots of choice, and I think it's actually great that Flagship's out there as it's a bit of a cheaper, it's a cheaper set, and I think that will appeal to a certain market and a certain customer base, and I think that's a good thing. That's great. There might be people who collect Flagship this year, get the bug, and then maybe next year they come back and they buy other sets within the Topps range. So I see it as a positive, but I can see that Topps is trying to position multiple product offerings for different types of customers. And for me, I'm always going to be interested in the Chrome, the autograph, hunting the autograph pinnacle cards. I also collect the Topps now, and I'll continue to chase those as well. Looking forward to a few more Danny Rick winning cards in my Topps Now collection to join this one here. This one is a parallel. This is a 1 of 99 card. So yeah, I'm hoping to add to that collection as well.
You had the Lewis parallel as well, Topps, didn't you? The one where he's getting out of his car.
I did, yeah. So I've got the Lewis.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is Lewis's driving to score 4,000 points. This is numbered of 99. The card looks really nice in that particular color scheme. So I'd say good investment, and this is a very hard cut. Going back to what you said earlier about collector foremost and then buy some stuff to sell, I'm really torn on that card. I think that particular card. So the Danny Rick card for me, that's a hold. That's my collection. That was that for me. That was one of the highlights of last season. I'll keep that parallel to remind me of that moment.
Yeah. The
Lewis card, I think it's a massive investment, and I think one day I'll probably hang on to it for a couple of years, and probably when he retires, I think I'll put it on the market.
You'll sell it to me first, obviously.
I'll give you first dibs, Glenn.
Yeah, it's really hard to try and keep up. Like for me, I like to complete one of every set. So as of recording this video now, I've got a complete set of everything. But going forward, if they're going to release, and I talked to Matt about this, if they're going to release, especially within this next, I think Chrome has a release date of March the 9th. Well, we're sitting here mid-February. So in the next 3 weeks, we're going to have Flagship come out mid-next week. Then 3 weeks later, we're going to have Chrome come out. And then last year, when Chrome came out, F1 Dynasty, the Dynasty set came out. And also Sapphire came out. So if they're going to do the same this year, we're going to have about 4 sets, flood them. And they're all high-end as well. They're not... And the new season starts next in a month's time as well. So you're going to start having obviously Topps Now. So you're going to have Topps Now, Sapphire, Chrome, Dynasty, Flagship, all together. So that's 5 different sets. Now, for me, F1 Dynasty, I'm completely priced out of that market. Although I am actually, I've got something lined up, and I may be getting 2 cases of it. But I can't even open them. Because for me, I couldn't justify it. You know, I can't say to my wife and kids, like, yeah, we've only got X amount of money, but then I'm sitting on, 20 grand worth of, 10 cards or whatever. So I'm gonna, as soon as I get the confirmation, I'm gonna put them straight on eBay. I would love to open it. I would love to get a Lewis Hamilton. But again, I was talking to Matt. I don't know how you feel about this. You may be but this stage of my life that I'm in, as a collector, I could not sit on a card that was worth like 20k. Some people are selling on the groups like F1 Dynasty, and they've got a Vettel free patch card, and they're like, oh, I want 12 grand for it. And I'm like, geez Louise, like... I don't know who's buying this stuff.
Well, it's a nice problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah, jeez. So part of my brain is
I guess.
saying I should open these two cases up. I should just pay what I'm paying for them, open them up, and hope that I make profit or break even. But then there's a very small chance I could pull a Lewis Hamilton. But obviously, if I don't pull a Lewis Hamilton, then to be honest, all the other cards for me are just like I'd be just hoping to make profit, and the only ones you're going to make profit out of that sort of money is George, Lando, and Max Verstappen. Um, so yeah, I just couldn't. I'm just going to sell them. I think as sealed. I couldn't open them,
Well,
which is really sad. It's sad, I'm getting them really sort of like at a cheap price, but I was thinking in my head, it's really sad that I'm going to have them and I'm getting them at a cheap price, but I can't afford to open them.
well, I think Dynasty, you're talking big risk but big reward. So that's the trade-off. I guess uh, when Topps first announced that they were taking over the F1 cards, there was a lot of articles and a lot of speculation to go, well, we know how big the market is for baseball cards or basketball cards or football cards. Now, if you look at how big those markets are and how big budget some of those investors and some of those collectors are, and if you look at Formula One and you know that the fans and followers of Formula One, uh, uh, supposedly they're the wealthiest fans of any global sport in the world. So the hypothesis was that Formula One collectibles, particularly the cards, would have a huge following at the high end and in investment because the fans are supposed to be wealthy. Although I'm not seeing the wealth, and maybe you're not either, Glenn.
I'm not a wealthy fan at all.
But seeing the sale of some of these Lewis cards and some of these Max cards selling for 20, 30 grand, there clearly is some very cashed up collectors out there. But the other thing is, I know that these people who are buying up the Lewis cards at 20 grand, these guys are serious investors. They're in it to make money, and they obviously think those cards will appreciate in value as well. So it's interesting. Again, they're taking big risk for big reward. Time will tell.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? If I said to you, I wanted to talk if we about the economy. Obviously, we're seeing. I don't know about you guys in Australia. I know that Australia's quite hot on solar panels because it's always sunny where you are. But in the UK, we're having they're calling it an energy crisis, and what I mean by that is just to give you an example. Yeah, for the last, I would say, 10 years of my life, I've paid about £100 a month for gas and electric, roughly. Some months it's 150, some months it's 80, some months it's 120, but roughly around that sort of ballpark figure. I've moved into a bigger house now, and when I first moved here, we started paying 150 a month, £150 a month. That's for gas and electric, so say 75 for each. And the other day, the government announced that they're releasing this price cap that they've put. Now, apparently in France, they're keeping the price cap, but in the UK, in England, we're removing that cap, which means the energy companies can charge what they like. Now, I've been quoted my new pay monthly schedule of £600 a month. So that's the difference. Now, obviously, for me, that means I need to find £450 a month every month consistently from somewhere. Now, the reason I'm telling this story is because I've been talking to all people on this where I live and people down the school when I do the school run, pick the kids up, and a few of my friends that live in other parts of the country, and they're all saying the same thing. They're like, Glenn, I can't afford that. And they're getting quoted 250s, 300 extra pounds a month. Now, when something like that happens, if we was to enter, say, a recession, which I predict will happen within the next I would say within 2022 we're going to hit a recession, but I think it'll probably be deep next year. What do you think is going to happen with obviously these? You may, because you've been collecting for quite a long time. I would imagine you've seen that rise, but also drop off in price and popularity. Now, if you're someone who's buying to, could like you said, oh, I've got a sentimental value, you don't care how much it's worth. If I said to you, give me that Lewis Hamilton helmet for double what you paid for it, you'd say no. You know, you so you don't care about it so much. But what do you predict happening to the economy of F1 as collectibles? Not just cards, but your helmets, your models, your statues, and all of that.
That's a really interesting, very in-depth question,
Sorry.
Glenn. No. I'm impressed. So I was collecting model cars when the GFC hit in 2008. What I found as an F1 collector at the time, so we knew in F1 itself teams went bust. We know that teams like Honda and BMW pulled out of Formula One because of the global recession. And in the collectibles market, the model car producers actually scaled back their production, and they produced far more limited runs of the models. So they anticipated there's going to be less demand, so we're going to make less of them. So if you try and go in the market now and you try and find a 2008 Kubica BMW Sauber, they are selling for 4 or 5 times the original price. And I can't find one. They are very hard to get because they probably made half or 1/3 of what they would normally make of that model. So that's another interesting thing. So long term, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out in the cards market, because obviously Topps plan in advance what their production runs will be and how many boxes they're going to print, but they do that based on demand. So they've obviously, for Flagship and for the upcoming Chrome release, they've gone, wow, Chrome 2020 was massively popular, oversubscribed. Topps know that boxes are selling for quadruple their original value. They know they can print double the production run. If we do end up in a recession or a global downturn, you're going to find that Topps at some point goes, right, we need to be very conservative with our print runs, and we're going to cut back the production going forward. You might find Topps now that maybe if there's a recession, you might find Topps now is produced in far less numbers. People are not prepared to indulge in Topps now, because they're worried about the outlook. So what you'll find is some collectibles will be more limited, and that means that when the economy does bounce back, those limited collectibles will be even more in demand and even harder to get. So I guess it depends if you take a short-term or a long-term view, but if there's a downturn, I see an opportunity. And that's what I'll be looking for is if demand is dropping,
buy the dip.
Buy in the dip and wait for the turnaround.
No, that's spot on. So something that I noticed that obviously I don't know if you know, you probably see in the background. I got into collecting cards again when my son asked me to collect Pokemon, and one thing that I did notice was that everyone you talk to. So if I just went up to a stranger in the street and I said, right, what cards are most valuable? They would say, oh, the original base set Charizard. Because that's what everyone says. Oh, I think I've got one of them up in the loft. Oh, I think I've got one of them in the wardrobe. Da da da. And that is true. A lot of people do have it. And it is. That was seen as the card to have years and years ago. And now obviously millennials and whatever, they're all like, oh, I want to have that card again that I wanted when I was little. But actually, you can pick up a complete set, a base set of Pokemon for about £300 to £400 on eBay, and at today's prices, because Pokemon's dropped right down again, you could probably pick out for about 250. Obviously, you can convert that into your own currency. But my point is that After everyone gave up on Pokemon years later, they released some sets called Black and White and Diamond and Pearl. And they were very unpopular sets. They weren't very big sellers. They didn't sell many of them. Not many people collected them. So that means loads of people haven't just got it lying around in their lofts and cupboards. When you try and buy a complete set of Black and White, you're talking £2,000. But when you talk to the stranger on the street, they always think, oh yeah, the base set is the one, that's the most valuable one, the original. But it's not. It's actually the Black and White set, the ones Diamond and Pearls, the ones that hardly sold. And so you've hit the nail on the head there. And it's interesting to hear you say that, because I was thinking the same. If we go into a recession, I'm not going to pull back on what I'm buying. I'm going to double down. When F1 cards are unpopular, no one's collecting them anymore, no one's getting them signed, no one's getting them graded. Obviously, there will always be a small subset of people doing it. But when it's at that point, when there's the lowest amount of collectors out there, there's the lowest amount of people storing it, some people will just chuck their cards away. So then there's less of that card on the market. When eventually we come out of that recession, and like you said, and then now people do have an extra £400-500 a month to throw at something. Some people are going to go, oh, look, Max Verstappen's just won his 5th title. Oh, I wonder what I might start buying cards again. And boom, they're going to go, oh, the one that's really in demand is the one from 2022, when hardly anyone, or 23, whenever, when hardly anyone bought any. And there's hardly any in the market. And we see that with the biggest example of that in the F1 world right now is actually the tops now, the first 4 or 5 cards that came out, because no one knew that they existed. No one knew to go on the Topps website and order the Topps now. Hardly anyone bought any. So the people that did buy them, they're laughing. I've got a friend, Adam, who's one of the admins in one of the Facebook groups. He's got about 20 of the Lewis number, is it Lewis number 3, where he's got his thumbs up? And he was like, yeah, I bought them for a £5, but I think they're worth like £300-400 each. So yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's interesting to get your thoughts there. So the lesson to be learned there is buy the dip.
Buy the dip, and even as myself as a collector for 25 years of Formula One, when Chrome came out and it I had to invest a couple of grand to get the full set, and Topps Now were coming out as well. I was interested in Topps Now, but I thought, do I really want to commit myself to 2 different collections? This is another thing that's what's Topps Now going to cost me over a season every race? And I worked that out. Oh, do I want to invest another $1,000 a year in Topps Now?
Yeah.
I went online and I was checking out and had in my basket the Lewis number 3 card. And I'm like, oh, don't I? And I said, no, actually, you know what? I'll show some restraint and I'll just focus on my models, which I'm committed to keeping that collection going every year. I'm committing to Chrome. I'm going to skip Topps Now and just see what happens. And I didn't go ahead with that sale, and obviously I missed out. So yes, sometimes if you don't see the bigger picture, you do miss out on an opportunity, and it costs you a lot down the track.
Yeah, I remember talking to one of the guys who bought a load of that Lewis card. And I remember, obviously, when it came out, it was $5.99 or $7.99 or something like that. And I remember he said, oh, they went up to £20. And obviously, when you've got quite a few of something, 20 or 30 of them, that's all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've only put £200 into it, but now it's worth £800 altogether. And you got to wonder at that point, I can't see them going up anymore from that. And then it's £30, £50. And then before you know it, now we're talking 200-300s. Now we're up to about 400 a card, actually. So it's insane. It's insane to think that a £5 card could be so valuable in such a short period of time as well. Like going forward, I would imagine that's going to go up. The cards that we see commonly, like loads of, will always not be as worth as much unless it's a very I don't know, like a popular card. Like I think a popular one will be, the one where it's Lewis and Max in the same tops now card with the line down the middle, like the equal points. I think that will be a very popular card because it fit. Yeah, that's it. Spot on. Yeah. I think that will be a very popular tops now card, even though that there's like tens of thousands of them out there. It just always will be because it will remind people of that race where they had equal points and it went down to the wire. I think that will be a very popular card. But it like you said, the less interested people are in something, that means the less they're going to spend on it. Like you've already said, I'm going to skip flagship. Well, if a few people or a lot of people think that, the flagship set might be worth more than the chrome set if everyone's hoarding the chrome set for it. Because a lot of people are going to buy chrome and go, right, I've got 5 boxes, I'm going to hold them for 1 to 2 years because the one before it went up to 1,700 a box. But if you've got loads of people doing that, that means that someone's always going to sell one month in, month out. So it actually takes longer for him to go up in value. I think the original Chrome set is going to do really well. I think that's always going to be the set to chase. And I just wish I had a box. I wish I had a spare 1,500 quid to buy one box just to put it in my little cabinet.
Glenn, I wish I had a case.
A case. See, I'm not greedy. I don't think of it like, I wish I had that so I can make loads of money. I actually just think, I wish I had one so I could store it in my cabinet with my chrome set. And I want a sapphire box as well. So I'm never, like when I was pulling these, when I was doing the F1 lights out, I said, look, I want a Lewis Hamilton parallel, but I'm not the guy that's like, oh yeah, I want to get the gold. Obviously I would have loved to, but I just wanted a 1 of 99. Yeah, that's all I wanted. I would have been happy with that. I'm not a greedy person. I don't think anyway. But yeah, I've got my tops now set behind me. So this is my F1 tops now folder. I've got the complete set of 2020. Oh, let's see if I can get that on shot. It's hard to know what angle. So that's all of the 2020. And then I've got that's the next page there. I've just got some duplicates left. Oh, I don't know if I can get that in one shot.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, so and then I've started the set that I haven't finished off actually is 2021, and the reason I haven't done that yet, there's just like a few gaps and that missing, is because so many people jumped on the bandwagon that I just thought, do you know what? I bet I could pick those up for like £3 a card, £2.50 a card. I just know I can. So I've just waited. The only downside is that because I've done that, I've got no chance of obviously getting a parallel unless I buy them off someone like yourself for like £1,000, £2,000. So I don't know what my strategy is going to be going forward for this year, 2022, for tops now, because I would love to actually get a parallel one day, but I don't know. Can I bring myself to buying like 20 of every card that comes out? Like last year they released 90, was it, or 89? So you do 89 times 20 times $7.99. That's a lot of money trying to chase a parallel.
Yeah, I mean, I went hard on the championship finale. Lots of collectors bought in bulk to try and chase those parallels. I ordered 100 cards from that championship finale. I think there were 8 different cards issued for tops now for that race, and I think 4 or 5 of them had parallels. I ordered 100 cards across the multiple types of cards that were on offer. I got no parallels at all. But had I got a parallel, a Max World Championship parallel, or even the I think there was a variation card that was available as well, 1 of 33. That's potentially a couple $1,000 card if you got one.
Yeah.
So is that worth me buying 100 cards for the chance I might get a $2,000 card? I rolled the dice. Like you said, it's a bit of a gamble. I rolled the dice. I invested. I got no parallel. So I've got duplicates of all those cards. If anyone needs any, I've got them. And guess what? There's a whole bunch of collectors out there who did the exact same thing, and the market will be flooded.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw
there
one
was
guy who bought
20,000.
like 450 of that card that you showed them, and I was like, bloody hell, 450 times, even if he got them on average for a fiver, like that's £2,000. But he ended up with, I think he got 3 or 4 parallels, so he's got to sell them for about £1,000 each, and then he's in profit.
Well, I love it when someone orders one card and they get a parallel, and that's probably a 1 in 10,000 chance of that happening,
Yeah.
but it happens, and I think that's a great story. And I think, I mean, does it frustrate the hell out of me when I ordered 100 cards and I got no parallel? Absolutely, that's frustrating. But I love it. I love for that person that it's made their day, and that's given them a story that they'll remember forever. And who knows, maybe it'll even hook them into collecting a bit more.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you get something like that happen, like with these lights, I've never had anything like that happen to me. So I've never just pulled a card and then it's worth hundreds or thousands. All the cards that I've got, I've bought myself individually. I've never opened a box of Sapphire, never opened a box of Chrome. So every card I've got, I've bought. I've bought, and then they're probably worth maybe the same, if not a bit more than what I paid for it. So, in that regard, I've never had any big luck like that. But like I was saying about these the Sapphire set, the F1 Dynasty. I was thinking, oh, if I can sell these for X, Y, and Z profit, that's for me. That's a great start. I can then invest 20,000 or whatever it is I make into something, like saying that, like you said, an investment, saying that I think is going to go up in value. I can actually go and buy like an autograph Max Verstappen or something like that. Whereas at the minute, like, I can't spend that sort of money. I spent £600 on those lights out boxes yesterday, and I was gutted. That really hurt. And it is a gamble, but obviously with having like I sell through eBay, I just try and break even from everything I do. So, I hope that I can break even from that £600. I've got to sell those parallels that I pulled. So I've got 6 parallels. If I can sell them for 30, 40 quid each, that's going to get me a quarter of my money back. And then if I can complete 6, like 4 or 5 sets and sell them for 100 quid each, then I think, oh, okay, well then now I've broke even. So I took a gamble. I broke even. But it just takes a lot of hard work to break even. But yeah, I would love for something like that to happen to me one day. Just pull a card out that's worth thousands.
The thing is, you pull out a valuable parallel, uh, great memory, great experience, great story. You can share it on the groups. You're talking about it a couple of years down the track. This card's got this story attached to it. So yeah, I think it's a amazing thing. And I mean, at the moment, there are thousands of collectors all out there who are buying into breaks, chasing those parallels. Some people are buying one spot in a break and they're getting lucky, and maybe they're lucky to get a variation, or maybe they get a Lewis portrait card or something like that. Um, or they buy a tops now and they get a parallel, and that's addictive. You pull a nice parallel once, and great experience. You want to do it again. It hooks you in,
It's almost
and
addictive.
and then you're addicted. That's right. So
You got the bug.
uh, one, once we've all bought our flagship, our Chrome, our Lights Out, our Tops Now collection, and our Dynasty, then we need to set up a bit of a support group for addicts.
The thing is, I was talking to someone about this, and it's almost this is really hard for me to explain without sounding like an idiot. When we say a gamble, So say you bought 100 cards, yeah, from the last race. Now, I assume if you bought 100 of them, and even if you got them at an average price of, I would imagine, 10 Australian dollars, so that means you spent about 1,000 US dollars. You could say that was a complete gamble. You didn't get a parallel, so I've lost 1,000, but you haven't, because you've now got 1,000 Australian dollars worth of cards. Now, as long as you sell them correctly, and don't give in to any pressure, then you can always sell those and hopefully get all your money back. So then that way, it wasn't a zero sum game. It's you got something of value out of the money you spent. Do you know what I mean? You were chasing something to be added on top, but you got what you thought was good value at the time.
Yeah, and I know that there's other collectors out there that are buying the tops now in bulk, and in the short term, some of those duplicates do flood the market, and there's some good bargains to pick up. I will hold on to my duplicates. I'll hold on to them for a couple of years, and who knows? Maybe I'll actually make money off them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as long as you don't give into the pressure, I suppose, of like, oh god, I've got all these cards. I better sell them as quick as I can. And that's where people come unstuck, because, like you said, there's a massive influx of them all on eBay, all at the same time. And it's a zero sum. It's a race to zero. Like, someone sells one for £5, then the next person wants to sell it £4.50. Next person £3. Next person £2.50, and then those sell out. And then eventually, the guy that listed them for £10 or whatever, when all the others are gone, and that's the only one that you've got if you want that card later, you have to pay the £10. And that's how obviously second-hand markets work. So yeah, as long as you don't give in to that pressure.
So this marzipan, he's a duplicate. So I'm gonna be sitting on this one, 3-4 years before this bad boy's gonna hit the market, and you wait and see what it sells for then.
I won't be buying it, I can tell you that.
I'll buy, Glenn. I'll buy up all your marzipan duplicates.
Don't. I've got a lot.
Actually, I got a funny story for you.
Go on.
I had a chance. So when I had a chance to buy a Latifi autograph for 80 Australian dollars, so about £40, and I'm not, I'm not a, Latifi's obviously a guy who's driving at the back, and we know he's not going to be he'll never be a race winner, he'll never be in the top team. So
he will affect the outcome of a world championship.
Well, I tried to negotiate with the seller, and I tried to get it even more of a bargain. And anyway, I missed out. I didn't get that sale. And guess what? If you try and buy any of the F1 autograph chrome now, they're all worth now triple that price. Even a Latifi card, if you could find one. So, the market for chrome has obviously gone crazy, and the market for autograph F1 chrome has gone crazy as well. And I missed out on that Latifi card. And it wasn't until I heard a interview of Latifi on Beyond the Grid, and I got to know and they spent an hour interviewing him, and I got to know a little bit about his background and a little bit about his motivation and a little bit about his
guy, isn't he? Yeah.
Lovely guy. And I'm like, oh, I really wish I had that autograph card. And then, like you said, he had an influence on the World Championship as well by accident.
Yeah.
I missed that. There's one that got away, and it was the price. It was a bargain, and I ummed and ahed and didn't jump on it, and I missed out.
I think, we were talking about buying the dip, actually, and you're referring to obviously that card being cheap. I think now I would say probably around Christmas time, actually, was the best time to buy any collectible. I would say any collectibles, probably, in the F1 world anyway, because the season finished in November, or was it November, or was it beginning December? But it finished anyway. Obviously now we've got this 2 or 3 month gap, but now F1's starting to appear in the news cycle again. So like I saw Lando Norris was on a popular morning TV show here called This Morning, and they were interviewing him, and I thought, oh, F1's gone onto the mainstream news feed sort of thing, and on Sky Sports, that's like our main sport news channel here. They're always going, "What's going on with Lewis Hamilton? Is he retiring? What's going on with Mercedes? What's going on with McLaren?" And it's starting to heat up, and obviously we've got the Barcelona testing very shortly, and then obviously the races start, like you said, in Bahrain. When that happens, we are going to see, and what we were just talking about, how like, oh, I wish that had happened to me. Who knows? Who knows? Like, the Williams may design the best aerodynamic package, and they could be at the front of the grid. We just don't know because it's such a huge rule change. And if you look at the back of the Haas on the new cars that have been released, compared to the back of like the Aston, they're completely different. Like most F1 cars that each year, they almost look the same, bar a couple of little kinks. But the Aston Martin is like wide all the way to the back, whereas the Haas goes in just like the Mercedes does, like really tucks right in at the back where the exhaust is. And I was thinking, God, like it's going to be a bit of the sort of like wild west in the first few races. Eventually they're all going to go, right, that works really well on their team, so we're going to copy that, and that works over there, we're going to copy that. So by the time 2023 comes about, the cars are probably going to all look the same. But for this race, the first couple of races that come up, we're going to see one team perform really, really well. And we don't know what that team is. No one can hand on heart say, yeah, it's going to be Mercedes. They just assume that because they've done well in the past. But this is a completely new car. And people forget, before this hybrid era, Mercedes was always a midfield team. Obviously, they took over from Braun GP, which before that was Honda, and they were back of the field. So it's not a given that they're going to be. It might be Ferrari. I think everyone would love Ferrari to be back at the front of the grid, and McLaren. So yeah, it's just exciting because no one knows. So what I'm in terms of how that reflects to us, if we've got a load of Latifi cards and all of a sudden Williams are fighting for race wins, his cards will go through the roof. Whereas at the minute, you could pick them up for 99p on eBay.
Absolutely. You're right. It's such a big shake-up of the design. There will be a team that surprises.
Like we saw with Braun GP with the double diffuser. No one. I remember that year. It was almost like I was about to refer to soccer when Leicester won the Premier League, but they said to Jenson Button, "We can't afford to pay you. You can stay in Formula One, but we can only pay you like a tenth of what you're used to being paid." And he was like, "Yeah, okay, then I'll stay in." And he won the championship that year. Like, what? He could have gone, "Nah, do you know what? I've had enough."
I mean, Braun sacked when they started the season. They sacked half their workforce because they couldn't afford to pay them.
Yeah,
they had no in-season development. They had no upgrades the whole season. So by the end of the season, they started the season with a clear advantage. Like you said, other teams came and copied, particularly Red Bull. And come the later part of the season, they only had the third or fourth best car because other teams had developed and copied and actually surpassed them. So you're right. Whoever starts the season on top, 2022, they'll have a short-lived advantage. Others will copy them, and someone else might have the best car come the end of 2022.
yeah. That's what I'm predicting. I mean, if we look at, what was it? Ferrari, was it? I can't remember if it was last year or a year before. I think it was the year before. Ferrari dominated, I think it was the Australian Grand Prix. And then obviously it came about that they were doing a very clever technique with the fuel injection. And then they got told to take it away. And from that, as soon as they took that away, because that affected how their combustion engine worked completely, they've just been obviously like the back of the grid, and they've slowly worked their way up to sort of fourth or fifth best team. But that just goes to show that one team will come up with a clever idea, and boom, they're going to be front of the grid. They're going to have like half a second advantage, and that will happen for about 2 or 3 races. And then we'll start to see, obviously, like Mercedes, Red Bull, they're going to be very quick to develop anything that comes out of any of the other teams. They'll say, right, that works for them, and they'll make a phone call and be like, right, I want you to copy it. Whilst they're also copying it, they're also going to appeal it. So they're going to say, right, their car's illegal. So we're going to hear loads of stories like that in the first 3 or 4 races. I guarantee it. And then and then what we'll see is a development race, like you said, like Brawn GP, where the other teams all start to catch up. And actually, we've got quite a long season, so that gives the bigger teams a better chance to like recoup those points back that they've lost at the beginning. But who knows? Maybe it will be Mercedes at the front. Obviously, I hope so, because it's going to have an all British driving team. But yeah, it's just exciting for me. It's like, for years people have said, oh, it's going to be Michael Schumacher, then it was Vettel, and then it was Hamilton. But this year we're going into it not knowing what's going to happen. We don't know if Red Bull are going to go on.
Well, you mentioned Ferrari's stellar season in 2019. Now that's covered. Their success is actually covered in the Topps Chrome release. So there's your driver of the day, Leclerc at Bahrain. He should have won that race, and he had mechanical failure 10 laps from the end or whatever it was. He finally did get his first win. He got his first win. Belgium followed it up the next race. There's his Italian Grand Prix winning card. That's an orange.
Nice.
And then Ferrari also won.
I can't see.
It's a bit hard to see that one. That's the Singapore Grand Prix winning car from Vettel. But point is, Ferrari were winning a lot of races in 2019. Suddenly there was like you said, there was the technical issue. And in 2020, when they had to address that technical issue, they had the 5th or 6th best car on the grid. Now we know Ferrari have made steps and improvements, and they were probably unlucky not to win a couple of races last year. Qualified on pole in Monaco, but didn't start the race. And I also remember Leclerc was passed. Maybe I think it was Great Britain. He got passed with 10 laps to go. So Ferrari are on the up and up. They're coming back. The interesting thing is, because the championship battle went down to the wire last year, we know Mercedes and Red Bull were developing their old cars right through to Abu Dhabi. Ferrari, they've been focused on 2022 for a long time.
Yeah,
they were not in the championship hunt.
I think a lot of teams have been, because really because of COVID, these cars should have started last year, weren't they? So you got to think that even if you have a small budget, you should have been developing this car, not last year, because last year it should have come out, the year before that. So all these teams have had at least 2 or 3 years to develop what is being released now. And the fact that Red Bull have come out and said, oh no, this is just a concept car, that rings huge alarm bells to me, that they haven't actually nailed down what their final car is going to be, which means they're still doing a try and tested, unless they just didn't want to give anything away. But to me, that rings massive alarm bells that they haven't got it locked down yet, because Max had a chance of winning the championship. I think Christian Horner's gone, right, I want throw the kitchen sink at this year's car. We need to get Max a winning car, because I think not only was he doing it because obviously they wanted to win, but I think they needed that to keep Max where he is for a couple more years, because, if he had that disappointment of losing another year, his dad already, I think when they signed him, they signed a 3 or 5 year deal with him. Can't remember off the top of my head. And I remember they said with a stipulation that at some point, if like a get out clause, if the development isn't good enough and they don't have a championship winning car within that term, he can come out of it early. So I think now they've given him that's going to really keep him there for at least another 2 to 3 years.
You're right. And so it's going to be fascinating. And whoever's got the quickest car in testing, they're not going to want to let everyone know they've got the quickest car. So we've also got this concept of sandbagging. So testing, whoever's quickest in testing, maybe that's a false reality. Maybe the fastest car is actually dialed it back, turned down the engines. They know they've got a good package, so they're holding back a little bit. So we won't know till Bahrain who really has got the best package.
No, that's
And
right.
even then, whoever has the best package in Bahrain may not have the best package by the time we get to the US GP later in the year.
Yeah, and who's to say that, like, let's just say, for example, Mercedes have the most dominant car in Bahrain, and they've got something on their car that the other teams appeal, and because F1 have really strived to make the cars look the way they look and handle the way they handle, or whatever, that they go, no, yeah, actually, we want you to remove that. And then that's it. Then they're back, then they're like, oh, God, that's going to knock us back a few places. So yeah, it's just going to be really exciting. Like, I've never seen such a large change to the way the cars look, and obviously and everything. So, and the way they should race next to each other. So I think the hype and the excitement going into F1, especially after what happened last year, I think we're at an all-time high in terms of interest and peak. And like you said, there may be people that next year watch an F1 race that have never watched F1 before. So obviously I'm seeing in the F1 groups, like the collectible cards, they started off with, when I joined, I think there was about 300 to 500 followers when I joined it, and now they're at like 2,500. So you've got 2,500 people there that are all looking at, like, okay, how much is this card worth? Can I buy this? Can I sell that? Can I trade? Can I exchange? So that's great, and I want it to be 50,000. Do you know what I mean? I'm in Pokemon groups where there's 100,000 people in there. I want F1 to be like that. So I'm trying to do my contribution by doing YouTube videos, doing these podcasts. So there may be someone listening to this that don't know what we know, but pick up on it, and they're like, oh yeah, he said about that, and that, or that team or that driver, and that may spark their interest in that thing. So yeah, I'm hoping that the sport and the collectible hobby as a whole grows and grows. What I found interesting that you said, Ben, is that a lot of your helmets and the model cars have like doubled or tripled in price. And I'm not going down the route of like, oh yeah, I can make money in that sector, but I'm just interested that from the sounds of things, that's always been there and it hasn't ever gone away, if you know what I mean. Whereas the cards at the minute I see is there's a lot of people jumping in on the hype train, like a lot of scalpers, if you like. They're buying this product. Oh, look, Chrome sold for that much last year. I'm going to buy 20 of it this year. And they're just doing it purely for profit. They don't care about what pools there are, you know. But I assume in the helmet market, you didn't. I don't know. Have you ever had that?
Well, funnily enough, in the helmet market 10 years ago, uh, most of those helmets in the top couple of shelves, they came out 10 years ago, and at the time they couldn't give them away. They
Really?
put a sale on, and they couldn't sell Mickey helmets, but unbelievably, um, and there was a glut of them, and I bought them at retail price, and these days they're worth significantly more, 4 or 5, 3, 4 times the original value. And now the helmet market is so hot that when a new release comes out, um, it's sold out in advance. People are buying up to 2 and 3 of one helmet so that they can keep one to sell later, and the market's completely transformed over 10 years. It's gone from I've seen it. I was collecting the helmets when it was a very emerging field, and now there are thousands of collectors in that field. It's boomed. It's never been more popular. So it's interesting with the F1 cards, where will we be in 10 years' time, and how big could the hobby grow? That's a really good question.
Yeah, and like you said, they're bringing out different cards for different types. Because I mentioned those 5 sets that are due to come out. I've completely forgotten like the lower end of the market. You've got the sticker collection, which I assume they're going to release one for this year, and also the We call them turbo attacks. Do you have that in Australia as well? Yeah, so you got the turbo attacks. It's actually there's 7, and I'm going to try and complete all of those. The rumor with the stickers is that they're not going to release packs of stickers this year. They're going to have you have to buy individual drivers stickers on the Topps website. So that's just a rumor I've heard. So keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, the turbo attacks, I know that they're getting ready to ramp up and release because I've seen a few posts from Top saying, "Oh, what type of inserts do you want to see in the new set of turbo attacks?" So they're obviously building up the hype for that as well. But obviously that's a cheap set, and I think that's great because that gives people that fun of opening a box, opening the packs, pulling, oh my god, a Lewis Hamilton base card, and they that card may never be worth more than 50p because it's almost like an unlimited print run. But that then feeds into Flagship, Sapphire, Chrome. People will then go, oh, what's the step up from this? Oh yeah, I'd love to own a Hamilton PSA 9, and that just helps us that have been collecting it from earlier.
Well, I mean, look at my collecting journey. So once upon a time, I was a 12-year-old. I watched some Formula One races. When I found out that there were cards available to collect, I didn't have any money at that time. I was just relying on my parents, buying $5 worth of cards in a pack. And so here's one of my 1994 Futura cards. That's a Martin Brundle card. Nice. And that particular one is actually, you can't see it particularly well, but it is signed.
Oh, yeah. Across the back.
So here's a card. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, exactly. So here's a card I picked up as a 12-year-old, and that's, and I collected this full set. It was affordable at the time. I kept the collection. I completed the collection, and when Chrome came out, I said, fantastic. I can now, as a young teenager, I collected the F1 cards, and I had no money, and I couldn't invest, and I couldn't buy duplicates, and I couldn't buy boxes. I was very much at that budget entry level, and these days, I'm lucky enough, I'm comfortable enough that I could go out and pre-order some boxes of Chrome.
Yeah,
and I can afford to go and invest in some cards and put them away for the future. So it's come full circle for me. I've gone from a very entry-level collector to now a serious collector and investor.
I think you're past that level, Ben. You passed that level a long time ago with all the cars and the helmets and everything. You're like next level.
Yeah, I'm scoping out where I can open my museum.
Yeah. I mean, you're almost, you've mentioned the word investing quite a lot. And I would say that you're not investing because you're, like you said, unless, like what you said, you buy 3 of something, you go and get one of them signed, you keep one on your shelf, but the other 2 you've put aside for like, okay, I'll sell them one day. That's invested. But what you've referred to as like you've bought and you said, I will never part with that. That money's might as well be for Ghazi, mightn't it? Because it's just all gone now. Like you've got that collection, you'll never get rid of it. And I hope to be the same with the cards. That's why I'm trying to collect multiple sets. I'm currently trying to complete with the Chrome. I've got about 8 sets of Chrome, but I want to get the Refractor complete set. And I'm about 3/4 of the way there now. And I also want to collect the purples, so I want to get a whole complete 1 to 200 in purple. And I'm even toying with the idea, I don't know, of completing a whole set of Chrome in gold.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be insane. Obviously, the Lewis Hamilton would be almost unreachable for me. But I've got in the background here. This is my box. So the front there, you can see they're all my refractors. But this back
Mhm.
bit here, that's the golds I've collected so far. So I've probably got about 30 out of the set. But I didn't actually intend to. And when I say golds, I mean a mixture of gold, 70th, wave. But these are all, I think they're all, oh yeah, there's a couple of autograph ones in there, but they're all gold ones. And I just really like gold color. In Pokemon, I've got, like, I even put them in gold sleeves. I don't know if you can see that. They're in like a gold sleeve.
Mm.
I just really like the look of gold things. So I'm trying to, when I'm buying cards off people, different sets, I'm just keeping the golds back for myself, just here and there.
Mm.
I don't know what they're going to look like in a binder altogether, because there'll be a mixture of the 70th anniversary gold, then you've got the true golds, then you've got the gold wave. So like this, I just got this one yesterday, this Renault gold wave. So I don't know what it'll look like altogether. It may look like a bit jumbled up on that, but I don't know. That's what I'm toying with the idea at the minute. Do I keep pursuing that, or do I just nib it in, like say no, that's beyond my reach? Because obviously a gold Lewis is going to be ridiculous.
I love with the color variations that there is an opportunity to create a unique set that no one else in the world has.
Yes.
I've seen a couple of people complete purple sets 1 to 200. I've not seen or heard of anyone do that for gold. You could be the first, and I think that's pretty amazing. And yeah, so what if it's different versions of gold? So what? I personally think the gold and the purple are the best looking cards in Chrome.
Yes, yeah, I agree with you there. I prefer the golds to the oranges, to the blacks, to the what other ones do they do? Red, and then you've got that. I don't know what they call it, fuchsia or something like that, but basically the purpley pink color. I actually prefer the golds. I think golds should be the almost the one of ones or the one of fives, because to me that signifies a premium thing. But I don't know why they've made it 1 out of 50. But there you go. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying I will do that, because obviously that's gonna cost an absolute bomb. But yeah, I'm just picking ones that I was talking to a gentleman who wants to sell like a big bundle of cards, and just I'm looking at like, okay, could I buy this off him and complete another set that I can then sell or make profit from? But then in there, I saw he had 2 or 3 golds, and I was like, oh, that's for me. That is like, so when someone sells me a set of stuff, the first thing I do, again, being a collector first, I shift through all the cards. Like someone sent me, someone sold me, I don't know how many cards. Let's say 1,000 cards, which arrived yesterday in this box. It's actually this box here. This whole box was full completely of
Wow.
chromes yesterday.
Yeah.
And I sat there and sorted through them all. And the first thing I did was, right, what's for me? Like, so I took out all the refractors. That gold Renault was in there. And then anything that was left over, that's the stuff that I then try and sell on or try and make a bit of profit from. But yeah, I always shift through them first, and I get really excited, almost like a kid in a candy shop. I'm like, oh, there's a gold card in here, or there's a purple. Yes, like that can go to my collection. So yeah, a bit of a,
It is. It's you're in constant conflict with yourself as a collector and an investor. You're always, is it for me? Is it for investment? I'd really like it. Maybe I'll let it go later. And that's also part of it. You have to have some discipline. You have to have some boundaries. And
yeah, I haven't got that yet. I'm trying to teach myself that as I go along. But yeah, everything that I get, I think, I'll keep that. But then I think, Glenn, you can't keep everything, because then you're just throwing money at this hobby that's already costing me a bomb. Like you said about the tops F1, there were some months where I was really skint. Like we just got by monthly wise, and then I was like, there's 3 races this month. And they were releasing like there was that one where it was a washout, wasn't it? Like it rained, the whole race got rained off, and they still managed to release like 3 or 5 cards from that set. And I was like, geez, I can't keep up with my bills as it is, and then I've got these F1 cards. So I was trying to just buy the odd one here or there, but then I noticed it, like you said, in the groups, there's massive influxes of like people saying that are just chasing the parallel, and they're like, who wants to buy these off me for £3 each? And I'm like, oh, I'll just do that later on. And I still haven't got round to doing it, so I'm going to suffer.
So that washout, that was George's first podium.
Yeah.
And those cards, I think, haven't gone up significantly in value. But George's first podium, knowing he's now going to Mercedes, knowing he's going to be a race winner, knowing that he one day could be world champion, maybe he could be multiple world champion. I think those George first podium cards are actually a really good investment.
Yeah.
For the long term. Yeah.
Yeah, his very first podium. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a Lewis Hamilton very first podium card.
Yeah.
Something else that I looked at, like, you were saying about your Futura set. Do you foresee the retro cards, if you like? So you've got the Grid 1992 set, you've got the Futura sets, you've also got the Australian Accolade card sets. Do you see the interest for those going up and up over time? As more and more people collect, more and more people will think, oh, what's the retro stuff? Do you see those going up?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And we've seen, particularly in that 92 grid set, which has a Schumacher rookie card in it, we've seen people buying up those sets that could, at one time, a year ago, you could buy that set for £50 to £100. And now, just that Schumacher, as you know, the Schumacher rookie card, people are getting it graded, and then they're selling that card for £300-400. So yes. So are we seeing an uplift in some of those earlier sets? Yes, we are, but then not all of them are going up the same amount. Anything with a rookie card in it is going up exponentially. And then some of those Adelaide sets that don't necessarily have rookie cards in them, they've gone up a little bit, but nowhere near as much as the 92 grid. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see that tops and their new releases is actually having an effect on some, like you said, those retro cards.
If you don't mind me asking, what's your opinion on the Futura set? Because Matt sort of done a lot of digging, and you being an autograph collector as well, he really pays attention to the way that the drivers sign their cards. And he's even going to, he said he's going to go to the lengths. I don't know if you know the Lando 4 card at the moment. Some of his autograph on the Tops cards are just signed Lando. Some of them are Lando with the little 4. So Matt's going to try and get on video, like he's going to try and video and ask, did you sign this card like this with the 4 on it, and get him to say, yes, I did, because some people are arguing it's not a real signature. But then he said, I was just giving you that insight into sort of like what type of person he is. He was talking about the Futura set. The autographs don't match up. Like the Lewis Hamiltons don't match up with anything Lewis signs now. So he was saying, I wonder if they're even legit. So he's actually questioning that set and that completely. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel they're a legit product with a legit autograph on them?
Yeah, it's a good question. Lando 4, there was a question of, was that an error? Was that planted? Was it a mistake? I saw a live video break where a Lando 4 was pulled out of a packet. Someone ripped a box and a packet live in a live stream, and a Lando 4 came out, and it proved that card was not a fake, not a tampered. That's how it came out. So yeah, it's interesting. So the Futura set, they attempted doing, I think in their 06 set, they attempted doing an early version of what we know today as Dynasty. So they tried to put some patches in. So they would get supposedly race-worn gear, put that into a card. They would get some driver autographs, but they were not necessarily, they weren't like Tops where they were had a licensed agreement to get these signatures. They were getting they were subcontracting someone to go and get the autographs and supply them. So there is a question of provenance with those Futura cards, and I do agree with Matt that there is definitely some there's some question marks about the authenticity of the supposed Schumacher autograph that's in that Futura set. I agree that that's a question. But the second thing is, in the F1 memorabilia market overall, there is a lot of fake autographs out there and a lot of fake memorabilia out there. So you do have to be careful. So I guess one good thing about Tops is there's no question of provenance. There's no question of authenticity. There's no question of you told me that you got this signed, but did you really? So these Tops products will always be authentic, and there's very few bits of F1 memorabilia that you can say 100% this is definitely real, not fake, not forged. So yeah, it's
I
interesting.
suppose that's it. Yeah, that is interesting because, like, say your helmets. I know you personally got them signed, but there's nothing to say that you didn't just copy that signature, is there? Whereas the Tops licensed products, like the authenticity process that they go through, we all trust that. Obviously, like it could be fake signatures, but we all trust that because they've had a very good reputation over a long period of time of doing it. So yeah, that's interesting. That really, I noticed this with someone. There's a guy in the group called William, and I think I referred to him in the last group. He got me into, or he sold me my very first sapphires, and he actually went and got a load of cards signed by the drivers at the Silverstone Grand Prix. And I noticed that when he was trying to sell them, because in my mind I thought, God, a signed Lando Norris card or George Russell, God, that's going to go for it's going to go for tens of thousands. He put it up for sale, and it was like, I think he put it up for like £300, and everyone was like, no, there's no authenticity, there's no, and I was like, what? Like, and I wish I'd bought them off him because I trusted him, and he even took pictures and videos of him getting them signed and stuff. So, yeah, how do you, once someone signs it, do you find that it doesn't dramatically increase the value of certain products?
Yeah, I mean, for some, I'll give you an example. Actually, I've got one right here. So one, so, let me get this. So I collect the model cars.
Yep.
Here I've got a championship-winning Jacques Villeneuve car, and you can see on the side pod that it's actually signed.
Yep, I can see that. Yeah.
By Jacques. Now, for some collectors, some collectors will say, "Hey, that devalues the car because it's no longer the original model anymore. I want to collect the models. I don't actually care about the signature." So it doesn't add value. In actual fact, I don't want to buy it because of the signature.
Yeah, that's what I've found in the card market. Some people are put off by buying a card because it's now been devalued, it's been tampered, it's been defaced.
It's not original. It's not the original collectible. So yeah, it's interesting. But then there's always a segment of the market that wants to buy the signed thing, even if it was signed after the release. So I think there's collectors for both. Some people will tell you that it adds value. Some will say it doesn't. And at the end of the day, it comes down to individual collectors' preference. And we know that for every weird and wacky and wonderful card that's on the market, there's a collector for it there somewhere. Someone in the group is a Latifi collector or a Mazepin collector. They're out there for sure.
Or error cards. Like some of the, like, like cards that are printed with errors on them. Did you see that in the F1 Lights Out? There's I think a Carlos. Was it Carlos Sainz, or I think it was a Ferrari? But on the back of the card, it's like Williams or something like that. So but people buy those error cards.
Yeah, I mean, I saw someone on one of the F1 car groups trying to sell a Vettel autograph card without the autograph for 500 pound, was it, or €500? Now that's a lot of money for an unsigned signed card.
An unsigned signed card. Yeah.
Some people would argue that that's an error. Some people argue that that's an error card. It is an error card. I would prefer the signed version.
But someone will buy it. Yeah.
But you're right. There will be a collector out there that specialises in error cards, poorly manufactured cards, unpopular drivers. There'll be someone out there who wants to collect all the Alpine powertrain cards. If so, hit me up. I've got a parallel.
The error cards, I know that there will be collectors of that again from the Pokemon world, and even I started to get sucked into that because when you're showing someone a collection, like obviously me showing you a collection, you know what things are, so you could be like, "Oh, nice, you've got that, you've got this." But when you're trying to show someone who doesn't know anything, they're just like, "Yeah, it's just another card." When you get an error card or something that has a backstory, so there's like Pikachu's that have red cheeks as opposed to yellow cheeks, and they'll say, "Oh, that's because when the cartoon series come out," and all of a sudden you're telling someone a story. So there's a story behind why that card was printed in that language or in that with that error on it or that blob or that stamp or something like that. And before you know it, you start telling a story like, "Oh, look, this card was printed back to front because the way the machines are run in Italy, blah, blah, blah." And before you know it, you're telling a story, which is actually quite nice, when you're telling someone that. And people are like, "Oh, that's really interesting. How do you know that?" And you could say, "Well, because I was about when that got released. I was there when it happened, and nobody like you said, no one could get rid of them, and I just thought, oh, I'll just buy it just because it will look nice in my binder as an error card or an error print." So yeah, it's sometimes having collectibles, it's nice to have that story, and you've got loads of those stories because you've got loads of autographs. I'm sure you've got many stories of like, "Oh yeah, when he signed this, he tripped over and we had a laugh about it," or "he told me about this," or you've probably got loads of stories with those signatures.
Well, let me tell you one very quickly. So that Williams model I just showed you, Jacques signed that for me at the Australian Grand Prix about 2002, I think it was. He drove his car to the circuit. He went into the paddock. He left the lights on his road car. His road car was a Honda S2000, a yellow one, and so I saw this and I said, I need a Jacques Villeneuve autograph on my model, and I know that his car's going to have a flat battery by the end of the day. So what did I do? I waited. At the end of the day, I waited around the car park entrance. Out comes Jacques. He wouldn't sign anything. Walked past everyone. Goes to his car. He realised his car's got a flat. And I said, "Oh, Jacques, do you want me to help? Do you want me to give you a bump start? Give you a push start?" He's like, "Oh yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much." So I gave him a bump start, and he was very happy. He was very appreciative, and he signed my model car. And I had a mate who is an F1 fan who was Canadian. I said, "Oh well, would you mind if I ring this friend and you say hello to him?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do that for you. You help me out, so thank you. Yeah, I'll make that phone call." So I rang my Canadian mate, and he picks up, and on the other line, on the line is Jacques Villeneuve going, "Hi, this is Jacques Villeneuve," and my mate thought it was a joke or couldn't believe it. And it's not every day that an F1 world champion just rings you out of the blue as an F1 fan.
Did he actually answer, or did he leave a voicemail?
He rang and spoke to him live.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And this all happened because I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
You're right. Every time I look at that model, I'm reminded that
story. Yeah.
that happened.
That's great. And you're the only person that will have that connection. If you sold that car with that signature, say if I bought it and I had never heard that story, if I just bought it off eBay, to me, it's just a model car that I bought with a signature on it. That's all it is. Whereas you've got a memory, a story, you have that connection to that driver, so it means so much more to you than to anyone else on this planet.
That's right. And if you if you try and sum up F1 collecting, we're collecting memories and things that remind us of the great moments of the sport, the great drivers, the great cars. When you collect cars, models, helmets, it's all that link back to what's happened in the past. And for me, I can remember the first race I watched. I can remember the first time an Australian driver won a race. I can I can remember the first race I attended live and watched Michael win. So to have the 2000 Michael helmet, when I look at that, I think I was at that race that year and I saw him win.
Mate, that's great. That's it's really nice story to hear. I suppose we've been talking now for I thought it was only going for an hour and a half, but it's not. It's been 2.5 hours. So we should probably wrap it up. I've got to say thank you to anyone who's been listening to this. Make sure you smash the like button up and also click subscribe. I'm going to share this in all the F1 groups. Thank you to Ben for joining. Do you have any social medias or anything that you want to plug or anything?
No, I've just got that Alpine powertrain parallel. That's all I got to plug at the moment.
Are you only on Facebook? Are you on Instagram or anything like
that? Yeah, just Facebook, and I do a bit of eBay selling, but nothing right at the moment.
Okay.
Longer term, I've got a bunch of stuff sitting there to sell. Check back with me in about 2024. I'll have some stuff to sell.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I've got loads to plug. I've got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, eBay, all with the name Hammond's Hobbies. Obviously, if you're watching this channel, you probably know already. I need to do a video actually picking a winner for the F1 Lights Out set because I've hit over 400 subscribers now. So thank you to everyone. Round of applause to you. I will be giving away a flagship box once I know how many I've got and all of that. So look out for that coming in the next few weeks. But that's really it from me. Thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Ben. I really appreciate you taking time out. Obviously, I know with the time difference, it's quite late for you. So really, really do appreciate that. So thank you for manning up and joining me on this podcast and showing us your collection.
Yeah, no, absolute pleasure, Glenn. And Australians are used to staying up late at night to watch F1. So this is an early night for me. I'm not looking forward to Bahrain. I think it might be starting at 3 or 4 a.m. my local time.
Well, yeah, being obviously a Brit, and in Europe, obviously I'm spoiled because all the races wherever they happen in the world are always set so that they start in UK midday time. And that's how they've always been run. So I've never thought about it. And when I know that sounds like a really stupid thing to say, but when I was talking to Matt and he was like, yeah, I have to stay up till 6 a.m. to watch the race. And I thought, God, I'm surprised F1 is as big as it is in Australia because that's such a huge commitment if you want to watch them live.
It is. And you've got your hardcore fans who'll stay up at any time of the night to watch it. You got your casual fans who'll just watch the replay in the morning. You got some people who just catch the highlights at night. But if Australia has a long-standing heritage in the sport.
Yep.
We've got a couple of world champions. We have an active driver, and we have an up-and-coming driver who won F2 and is now reserve driver for Alpine next year. So the tradition and the heritage of Australians in F1 it continues.
Yeah. No, that's good. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Ben. And I'll see you guys on the next video from myself. I don't know who's going to be on the next podcast, but if you want to reach out to me and if you'd like to be in Ben's place next week or the week after, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And hopefully we can do another one very soon. Cheers, Ben. See you later, mate. Bye.
Thank you, Glenn. Bye.